Hello, here we go again. You are live in the shed with Rose McInerney. Great to be back. Great to see you for another week. We are, if you can believe it, we are now halfway through September. It just blows my mind. I can't believe how fast the time is going. Maybe it's because we're spinning our wheels in the same spot a lot. I don't know. But I'm really happy that you're here this evening with me. So, we put a big question out there tonight, and that's to get the conversation going. I realize that it's no fun talking to myself. I would love to talk with some of you and get to know you, to share a little bit more about me so you know who I am and where I'm coming from. I'll keep most of it pretty on the up and up, but I may, slip in a little bit about some of the things too, of course, that I struggle with. Like you, because we are at this time of COVID, and so much is shut down, and we're walking around with masks, and the world feels upside down. I know here in the US, we're heading into an election in a matter of weeks. I just got my United States postal flyer saying that I can vote by mail. So there's a lot happening. And at the beginning of the week, if you're a subscriber to our womanscape.com site, you're receiving our newsletters every Sunday. And this past Sunday, we couldn't resist sharing the record breaking number of fires around the world. And when we think of fires, if we're living here in the U.S. or you're in the North American area, we tend to think of the West Coast, the Midwest, Oregon, British Columbia, California. I read just this morning that over 1 million acres has burned. It's actually 10% of the Californian coast area there. So we're living in very, very challenging times. And I don't know about you, but it makes me want to escape. I love traveling, as you know, and sometimes when someone tells you you can't do something, you want to do it even more. So that's kind of the headspace I've been in lately this week. I've been thinking about all the travels that I've had, what I've missed, what it is about the world that's so compelling, and then to see that in contrast to some of the fires happening. The hurricane hitting the coast in the south as well. You can't help but say, God, could we just rewind and get back to where we were? So on that note, what a great way to start midweek, to break it up and to say, if you could go anywhere, what if you could go anywhere, where would you go? So, of course, a number of you answered. And, more often than not, the winner place was Italy. And I understand that. Anyone that's, even if you haven't been there and you've read Eat, Pray, Love by Melissa Gilbert, you're going to love the food. There's something about the wine. I don't know. It's just a super romantic place. It's got so much history under the Tuscan sun. There's just really good heat, wine, pasta, everything about Italy that's so endearing. And so many of us, if you've had a chance to go, you don't want to come back. The lifestyle there, the siestas. We've been really lucky, I think, here to, despite the horrors of the time and what is going on, the economics, the racial tensions, and the movement right now, and the animosity, the polarization. I think that it's really important, though, to go back and to embrace some of those memories that you might have, or to read about them, to take yourself away and have those moments of escape. So, with that, I want to tie that into who our change maker is this week, but I want to take you away with me today. So, today is a day where I'm going to bring you into the last travels that I was able to do this year. I literally I flew into Toronto and then on to New York a week later, from Tanzania. It has been a dream forever to go on a safari. And I know that many of you know I did this crazy climb thanks to some of my Baffin babes from last year that encouraged a trip that meant climbing up instead of going out. So that's a story in itself. And I really don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about the stories around Africa because the beauty of the land and the animals, but also because they resonate with our featured change maker this week. Her name is Christina Mittermeier. I'll come back and talk about Christina at the end. So first, I want to jump into the story. I'm just going to check and see if I can take any live questions here. I see all of our promos. I always love it when it pops up, but I don't see anything happening. So no big deal at all. Let's get into, let me take you to Africa. Let's just do that. So, what you are going to see behind me is probably the greenest green, maybe not quite as green as Ireland because I've got a special spot for Ireland, but it's pretty darn green. This is called the Goron crater. It is very young, it's only 2.5 million years old. To get into the crater, it's about 800 meters deep. And I think from the center, it's about 3 miles wide. I don't know if you can tell from that picture the scope of it, but you can see how it literally looks like the Garden of Eden. It's this beautiful basin, and you can stand up at the top and have a great photo op there. And then you can actually take a caravan if you go with a licensed tour guide. You can go down into the crater and spend the day. And you literally drive around in these Toyota 4x4s that are equipped to basically drive through a swimming pool. Their tires are that thick. But they take you around and you have a chance to go to different spots. And the guides are really great because they know where you can find the wildlife. And you also have such a range of terrain down there. There's long prairie style grasses that are perfect for lions to hide in and tigers. There's water beds that have hippos, crocodiles on the edge. It's truly like a contained little Noah's Ark. So I love it for that. There was something so mystical in seeing this. And I know my camera guy is rolling some pictures for you to see of some of the wildlife in the crater. In getting to the crater, I had a lead up of 3 days beforehand where we were essentially in the northern part of Tanzania, and it's an area called the Serengeti. There's been all kinds of famous poems, and the best wildlife photographers in the world know the area well. Going into Kenya and this area of the Serengeti, you will get the greatest breadth of wildlife. So it's just amazing. Some of the amazing, and I'm going to use amazing over and over again, and probably incredible way too many times. But it's hard to know how to describe just how majestic this wildlife is. Um, Again, we're here on this side of the world, and this isn't something that we have in our backyard. It's a dream vacation to be able to do something like this. Um, but the beauty of it is truly threefold. I'm going to just go with that number three and see if I can fill that in. The first one is you get out of your element. When you travel to somewhere else, you get to experience a culture, a way of life, people, and then, of course, whatever the wildlife is, the environment of it. So we were really lucky to have a couple of days in the Goron crater, and there's actually this really cool. It's kind of where Italy, and no kidding on this one. The architect was Italian. He created this castle, almost, if you will, on top, and it's part Maasai tribe, so very Africana grass thicket kind of roofs that you would see in a tribal setting, almost like, in Ireland, actually, there's a thicket kind of roof, and it's a mix of straw and mud. And here it's got a couple of other smellier things in there too. Um, but so sitting on top of the crater, you can stay in this wonderful, it's called the Gorongoro Hotel, and you can stay in that. And it's a combination of sort of this feel of British drinks and sitting back and admiring what's down there, but also getting a sense of the wildlife and literally wildebeests and tigers and wildlife roam around up there. So you can't walk anywhere without a guide. You have to be escorted. So the Maasai people is something, and I'm not watching the rolling of the camera, but in the Maasai tribe, they are essentially modern day shepherds. Their lineage dates back, I think, at least 600 years, and they come from the areas in Egypt, and they're a nomadic tribe. So essentially, they will settle in groups of about 100 to 200 people, and they will live off the land. So they have sheep, they herd cattle, and they live very, very simply. Over the last 20 years, the government in Tanzania has insisted on education. So it's changed their way of life a little bit, not to mention all the tourists like me that go out there and want to meet and greet the people and see how they live. So the one unfortunate thing in going and visiting is that you do see a lot of kids by the roadside. They've been sort of trained to beg for money, and they'll ask for money if you want to take their picture. But it is at least an opportunity to go and to see a place unlike anything that we know here in North America. So that's the first thing. Take yourself out of your element. Do it in whatever way you can. If you can travel and you're lucky enough to be able to afford to do that, or even to watch shows on TV or to read books or watch documentaries, I highly, highly recommend you do that right now. There's something about taking ourselves out of, I don't know, the fray and the stress, maybe a little bit of the fear of what's going to happen. So, number one, if you're feeling like you need something lighter, I need to be taking my own advice. Take yourself out. As soon as I started looking at these pictures, I felt really good. I felt really, really good. So that's the first thing. So you take yourself out, you feel better, you get exposure to something else, and it forces you to ask questions. You can't help but ask questions. And that's, I think, for me, the number three thing. And that's the wonder, the curiosity, and you realize how big the world is. And I'm rambling some trivial little small little facts, but when I was actually in Tanzania, it was amazing to just hunker down and read about the history of the place and the different animals. And I know when I was talking with my Wilson before this tonight, I was saying to him, you know, the number of animals that I'll never get a chance to see. I don't think even at a zoo. So for 1 second, I'm going to share a little bit of a story about wildebeests. So wildebeests are something that I know from the storybooks. I wasn't even sure they really existed. At the time that I was going in March, that's the beginning of the rainy period, the rainy season. And what happens with these wildebeests is they herd. So if you can imagine, I'm in the Goron. I'm in a truck and it's got the top open. It rained a little bit every day. The top was open on those bright spots when it wasn't raining. And literally, as the rain picked up and changed direction, if there was a wind, thousands, and I'm talking thousands of wildebeest stopped what they were doing and they would shift direction towards the rains. So it was like watching animals in a robotic way answering nature's call. And people travel from all over the world to see the great migration, is what it's called, and to watch the animals follow the rains. And they follow the rains because that's where they need to go to in order to get their food and the grasses and to continue to survive. So it's quite an amazing story. I don't know that I've got the same kind of story for Italy. Italy for me has always been about food, I think, and about touring around. I've been lucky enough to go to Venice and drive along the super, super crowded canal. I think with everything happening with climate change, I know that the city has been sinking, and St. Matthew's Square there, or St. Mark's Square, has been underwater. It went through a horrific time where it was underwater, but I think things have changed a little bit. It's buoyed a bit with heating and climate. So I may be wrong about that, but I don't think so. Um, so I did want to ask who had any kind of horror stories out there with travel, because sometimes the most unexpected disasters make for really great stories. So I've told you a little bit about my travels in Tanzania. Um, One of the great things about adventure is sometimes when things go horribly wrong, maybe like life, when things don't go as planned, we can kind of kick ourselves. I've been known to do that a lot lately in trying to roll out a new website for Womanscape, to pull that magazine together that we do. The things that feel so important in the moment when I'm working on them. And yet, when I have time to step back and I look at the big picture in life, I realize how completely silly it is to stress over any of that stuff. What really matters is who you're with and how blessed you are to be living and breathing. That's a shout out opportunity right there to my friend Judith. Um, and she's going to know why I said that, but that's a special shout out to you, Judith. So let's talk about things that didn't go well. So I was talking again to Wilson. All right, Wilson, can you remember one complete disaster of a trip? And he reminded me of, I don't know if there's any tennis fans out there, um, but if you are a tennis fan, you might get this. I have a dream. I have not fulfilled this dream yet. I would love to go and do the major tennis events around the world. Um, I used to love watching tennis when I played a long time ago. And so we were really lucky one year to have invites to go and see the Family Circle tennis match. It is on the circuit and it takes place in South Carolina. And I had never been to South Carolina. So I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be great. It was the time when Paula Dean was like baking up those pies and she was still in good stead with everyone before she had that little bloop. So I was really excited. I love magnolia trees. There's something about civility in the South. If anyone's read The Garden of Good and Evil, there's just something really alluring about the Charleston area. So I was super excited. Things did not go well from the very beginning. Show up at the airport, waiting and waiting for the flight to go on the board, and it never did. So we kept asking, and it was a small flight. So that was why. So fine. Eventually, we get herded at the last minute. It's a super small group of us. I don't know, maybe 24. It was a small little plane, maybe a little more, maybe 36. I don't know. But anyway, we finally get on the runway and we're sitting there for an hour and we can't take off. There's inclement weather that's coming through. 2 hours later, we finally take off. We land. Okay, we get there and the rain is not looking good. And we're starting to hear about all of these major players pulling out. And I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to see my Nadal. I'm not going to be able to see my, oh God, what's his name? My beautiful number one Swedish man, Federer. Thank you, Federer. So I'm excited about seeing the women and the men play, and they're dropping out one by one. And I think Sharapova was still in at that point when we had landed. And I thought, God, at least I'll get to hear the grunt of Sharapova. That might be worth it. So, but sure enough, the weather continued to change, and of course, a tornado was coming through, a hurricane was coming through. So I thought, well, you know what? We're staying at this really historic place. It's going to be amazing. It's a B&B and it's 150 years old. It's just going to be beautiful. Well, they eventually closed the whole tournament. The restaurants closed down. People aren't going to come into work. So we're ordering like French fries and Caesar salad or anything we can get for dinner. We're thinking maybe we should try to get home, but of course we can't fly home. So it ends up being, and I feel like Netflix wasn't a big thing back then. So it wasn't like we could just escape to the movies there. So anyway, we hunker down. We can't get a flight going back home. Meanwhile, back home, we've got a number of kids that are just on the cusp of being truly mature enough to be left alone, but we've left them alone. Our youngest daughter has a basketball tournament. So while we're away dealing with the hurricane, they're at home making a hurricane of their own. Turns out, when we arrive home, there are frogs in our kitchen that are coming from upstairs. And there's mud that's been tracked in from the garage door. And it's all the way up the stairs. And you can't miss it because we have this, cheap, cheesy carpet that's going up the stairs too. So we start asking some questions, go downstairs. We find out that a party has happened. And the only reason I think that the kids admitted that there was even a party, besides the fact that the basketball tournament was canceled too, was a massive empty vodka bottle rolled from down or outside of one of the couches. So, that was really, I mean, it was a weekend of stress and exasperation. And yet, when I look back and I think of the story, and, we could laugh about it afterwards with the kids, even though we were really, mad at the time. That made for a really, really great memory. It's still one of those that I pull out. So when you're looking at those trips that maybe felt like they were just heaven and those ones that were just hell, um, they're good. We got to have both. I think we got to have both the good and the bad. And so maybe that's a nice little segue or a little metaphor into what we're dealing with today, that we've got the good and the bad of COVID. Tired of the masks. I'm tired of not being able to get on a plane and travel and to see people and give them a hug. But I'm understanding that blessings are massive and we're really lucky. So, what is Tanzania? I've been talking a long time. What does Tanzania have to do with our change maker this week? Christina Mittermeier. I don't know if you know the name. If you don't, you should. She is the preeminent National Geographic photographer in the world. She's married to Paul Nicklin, who's also an amazing photographer in his own right. And I think they met at National Geographic. She's Mexican born and started her career as a biologist and fell in love with the stories that she discovered in her camera. And I think to a great extent, all these pictures of animals that I've got there are my attempt to create some kind of storytelling with my photos, as many of you do with yours. So, beautiful things to know about Christina. She's not just taking pictures because she's good at it and these animals and water life are beautiful. She is taking pictures to tell stories to get us to sit up and pay attention. She's been doing this for a number of years and getting some good traction now. Um, I believe that both her and her husband were behind that. It went viral. It was a picture of a polar bear that was starving, and I think there was two thoughts about that polar bear, and I hope I'm right on this one. One was that why are we showing these pictures, and the other one was, oh God, I had no idea. So climate change is real. This is one of the things that Christina is fighting for. Everyone to wake up, to see the pictures, to know that we only have one good Earth. I won't be able to travel to Tanzania again if there isn't a Tanzania. If we don't have an environment where we can support our wildlife and our waters are clean enough so that our air is not polluted and we aren't breathing in the kinds of gases we're seeing from fires. I could go at length talking about what that all means. Our global ambassador, Erica Hilton, knows exactly what this means, and she's been fighting for the protection of our environment and creating a more sustainable way of living. Everybody jumped on board when we got rid of straws, didn't they? Now that we have fires burning all over the world, and I'm not just talking the West Coast, I'm talking in Alaska, I'm talking about parts of Asia, parts of Africa, where the climate, it's been so hot for so long and we've had such deforestation that our world is really suffering. So Christina's the perfect woman to come in and save the day. I've got a great little shot of Christina's cover photo. This was on our last issue for WS, our volume WS, and it speaks to freedom. And what I love about this is that she's got a duck on top, and it's kind of inverted the order that you might think. A woman, a Chinese woman going to market and buying a duck would probably carry it in a bag and bring it home. But in this picture, I think the duck is ruling. The duck is on top. And Christina's got it right that our environment has to be on top. So I'm going to encourage you to take a look at Christina Mittermeier's website. Her website is filled with amazing, incredible, I'm going to use those over and over, uber size, magnificent, um, wrenching photographs, not just of whales and underwater life, things you would see scuba diving and icebergs from the north. It's filled with just stunning pictures of Aboriginal peoples around the world, the way that they live, how beautiful the environment is. There's a picture there that I really love, and you'll see it if you scroll through her website. And it's with two kids and they're running on the beach and they've got sort of a fishing net trailing behind, almost like a kite. um, it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes to really the beauty and the happiness that we find in nature. So I can't do the plug for Christina big enough. So I do have an ask for you. If you're watching this on Rewind, it's not too late to do this. I want you to go to our Womanscape social feeds. We've got a couple of people on our team that work really hard to highlight these women. So kudos to them. I don't know if we can do a clap. Yes, that is clapping for our producers that are behind the scenes. Yes, and they are doing this. They are bringing these women to you. All right, I like the horn there too. They're bringing these women to you. You need to go to our Instagram feed and you need to like that photo of Christina Mittermeier. You need to show her that she matters and she cares. It's easy. You don't have to pay anything. It's free. Let her know. And if you want to even go that much further, go to her website. Go to Christina Mittermeier's website and like and follow her. Tell her how you feel, that we want to be able to travel in the world and be free to go to Italy and to go all over, and that we care that she's working for us. That's a shout out opportunity as well to our good friend Erica Hilton. Erica Hilton represents Christina and is the purveyor of her art. We are going to see only bigger and better things for Christina because she is making some great noise in the world. And then I have one last plug before I sign off, because we're almost close to that 7:30 time. And I know that your time is really precious. I'm really happy that you choose to come and spend it with me. And no matter who it is out there, I really do appreciate it. So that last little shout out, besides going to Erica Hilton for promoting Christina and besides all the people behind the scenes, I want you to take a look at how you're spending your money. Are you buying clothes that are environmentally sustainable? I've done a shout out before for people like Stella McCartney, but I'm going to do a shout out that might seem like a strange one to Mercedes Benz. Why am I doing this? It's a car company. We've got fossil fuels. What's going on with this? I'm going to applaud them because they are supporting what Christina does, number one, and because there's something behind that. They have pledged that they want to go carbon neutral. And that's not just going forward, that's everything from the way that they produce the cars to the actual battery life and emissions, all of that, so that they are no longer leaving a footprint on the environment that is destroying it. Um, Maybe they're going to be game changers. We know Bertha Benz, if you read our story on womanscape.com, you'll see that she was a forerunner in this. Men, I love you, but women do some pretty kick ass things. And that's a shout out for Bertha Benz, man, because She, I love it because Bertha hopped in the car. She helped fund her husband's dream to build a Mercedes Benz engine and a car while Ford was busy, or before Ford was busy getting their thing going. And she even hopped in the car with her two boys and went cross country in that car before anyone else in the world had done that. So, big shout out to all these people. One last comment. I'm going to leave you with this. I think one of our change makers, when asked where she would go, if she could go anywhere, she answered my kitchen table. Sounds like a strange one, but I think it's a good one to leave. You can be anywhere in the world. You don't physically have to go. Around the kitchen table, we bake. We bake. We don't bake bread. Maybe we do bake bread, but we need an oven for that. But around the kitchen table, we eat and we commune with one another. And I think that's a lovely image to take away and to make your kitchen table worthy, or make yourself, give yourself, avail yourself of all the beauty of a kitchen table. So I'm going to say thank you, all of you, for watching. I'm going to encourage you, don't forget to go to Instagram and like that photo of Christina Mittermeier and surf around, take a look at her work, and be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. Give yourself breaks. We are filled with all kinds of blessings. I know I thank God every single day for this life, no matter how bumpy the ride is. We're lucky to be here. So have a great night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. And I can't wait to see you again next week. Don't be shy about bringing in any questions as well. All right. Take care, everyone. Signing off, and that's a wrap.